Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tech-Mex podcast. This is your host, Eric Ramirez. I've got my awesome co-host here, Eric Gomez.
Also known as Mando Gomez.
I changed it up there on you, huh?
Yeah. Like all my friends call me Eric. My my public persona, Mando Gomez.
Hey, well, we've got an interesting show for you today. This is episode 35, number 35. Let's get into it. Dale.
Dale. Man, guess what?
What's that?
The end of the road for the fake Satoshi.
The fake Satoshi, I like that.
I
Are we
told
talking
you.
about Craig here?
Yeah, Craig Wright. And I know some people, when we were talking about him, they told me that I was wrong. It's not me, man. It's the judge.
That's true. I guess it's official now, right?
It is official. The UK judge ruled out that he is not Satoshi Nakamoto. So kudos for COPA, which is the Crypto Open Patent Alliance. They won, and they're trying to. I think that they are doing a settlement, which is weird because this guy now is like, well, let's just settle this. And I think that the reason is because he just lie in a massive scale, right? So like he was fabricating like different documents and things like that. What's your take? Do you think that this fool is going to go to jail?
Well, he probably deserves to go to jail for wasting everybody's time and lying in court, essentially. I mean, that's for sure. But, you know, this guy is actually he's got a lot of money. I think he's already a billionaire. So I don't know that if he does, it's probably not going to be for too long, right?
Yeah. I mean, he owns like 1 million Bitcoins. It's insane, man. In today's prices is...
That's so true. And you know what? Like, speaking of that, like, why would he risk all of this? Like, he's got a ton of money, right? A ton of Bitcoin, which, you know, potentially could be a future trillionaire, right?
Yeah.
Why would he risk it all and end up going to jail where technically anything could happen, right? That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just pride, right? That he wanted to get that recognition and going at the end of the day, like, hey, I'm the creator of this, right? Which it literally backfired on him. So, but there's something interesting on all of this, because a part of the whole trial, a lot of the early programmers, they have to bring their emails and any interaction with Satoshi. So there were some early emails that actually kind of alludes to certain things. One of them is that there is obviously multiple theories. One theory is that Satoshi is a group of people, right? So, and that was one of the ideas, that maybe this guy, he was part of that group. But when you're reading the emails from all of these programmers, it feels like it's almost one person, though. It's like, and not just that, it actually feels like the person might be even having a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, it's interesting to even think of that, right? Some guy after work, all tired, he's like, okay, let me get back to my side project of Bitcoin. And he does this on the side, you know, it's kind of funny, and it's something that is changing the world. It's pretty interesting. So for those of y'all out there, you know, working on your side projects, moonlighting, things like that, just know one day it could really blow up.
It really, yeah, and it's really it's amazing, because the other thing, this guy, he put it on a forum, right? And there's a lot of stories on that forum. Do you remember the name of the forum? I think that it was
The crypto
called
one or the
no,
cipher?
actually there was another one. It was called Anti-State.
Okay.
So that was, I think that even the website, I need to check if it still exists, but there was another person that actually this person asked, is like, hey, do you need any help? I want to help on the project. And Satoshi said, well, I think that right now we need a website and with an FAQ, and I'll provide you the answers for it. But yeah, you need to do it. This person, it wasn't literally an intern, hasn't even uh, done in school, but the person was there.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very interesting that even some early developers are like just people that wanted to contribute to the
Yeah.
cause.
I wonder if they got paid in Bitcoin.
Doesn't matter, right? I mean, I think that if he was mining in the
That's
beginning,
true. I mean, that's a thing. But did he have the foresight to actually do that?
hard to tell. I think that some of my friends that they are techies, and we discussed this before, sometimes they're not very savvy financially. Dude, they make good money. Like a lot of the techies, they make very, very good money, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't know how to invest it, right? And I think that is that financial literacy or that vision to be able to see how these things are going to turn out. Because even some friends they were mining, some of my friends they were actually um, buying, and I remember it's like they are kicking themselves because like, oh, I sold all my Bitcoin.
That's true. I think a lot of folks that were on Silk Road early on also, because they're the ones that started using Bitcoin actually for buying and selling as a currency. You know, a lot of them, you hear the stories on Reddit where they're like, yeah, I used to have, 1,000 Bitcoin, but I spent it, on a comic book or some other kind of like drug or something online. It's like, so they got high for a day and missed out on like on holding like 10 Bitcoin.
like the guy with the
Happens.
pizza,
Yeah,
right?
the guy with the pizza.
Which is like he had the bitcoins, so like who is willing to use buy these bitcoins from me, right? For what price?
Hmm.
And then suddenly I'll send you a pizza, right? For I don't know if it was 1,000 or whatever amount of bitcoins,
Yeah.
but that's one of the stories in the early days.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting. But you do hear lots of stories like that. But like they say, you're gonna get Bitcoin at the price that you deserve. So if you're really into it, bite the bullet, buy
Yeah,
some. Not financial advice.
yeah, and I think that there were multiple things on the Craig Wright uh, kind of trial that was
Yeah.
very interesting to me, the emails. But another thing is that for me, it was very funny that he couldn't move the bitcoins. Right? Like, come on, man! If you have that many, you won't lose your keys. You know what
Hmm.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Uh, and he couldn't move. He couldn't do a transaction. So that was for me like that was kind of the answer, right? But after reading all of the emails, it was very evident, kind of uh, the judgment. So I'm happy that this guy is not because he's literally was trying to get the copyright for even for the Bitcoin.org, right?
Hmm.
He wanted to get the domain and the name and all of that.
Well, I'm glad it all kind of worked out. It was all in public. Everybody knows. So again, like 3 reasons Craig Wright is not Satoshi is he doesn't understand the Bitcoin code. All of the early emails from the early users of Bitcoin, dude, he did not know about any of those emails and couldn't explain that. And then he can't even move the early Bitcoin. He doesn't have the keys. So pretty easy, clear cut. He's not Satoshi.
He's fake Satoshi.
I love it. Well, I'm glad that's over with and done with. We can move on from Craig Wright. I know that that is something that was always something. Now, he probably still has believers out there though, because I know we got some comments saying like he is the real, he is the real Satoshi, and you probably will never be able to convince those guys otherwise. But
Yeah,
it
I
is what
mean,
it is.
he has his backers, right? And good for them. I don't know what they get, right? Just by protecting him.
I think
But
that he came out with BSV, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. Is that what it was? I think when he tried to fork it, something like that.
I have no idea, man.
I
But
probably still have BSV because they automatically gave you some when you held Bitcoin.
true, the cash one. Okay. So talking about it's funny that I read. We have been in with Bitcoin many years. Has been more than 10 years right now. Um, it makes me laugh when I hear like Bitcoin crash. It's like you guys don't know what is a crash.
No.
It's like when you see a crash of 90% that's a crash, baby.
That one hurts. You got to really have diamond hands for that.
It's the diamond hands there. Truly, OG hodl.
DJ OG Huddle.
Yeah. Uh, And I think that is just maybe that's the reason why I wanted to talk about it. Volatility. Volatility is natural in any of these assets, and depending on the asset, like in this case, Bitcoin, it is going to be very volatile. And it's funny because sometimes there is a study on the bubbles,
Hmm.
like how they created. One of the first bubbles, it was in the 1800s, though, with the tulips. Are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah, people love comparing Bitcoin and tulips.
Hmm. So there is a bunch of bubbles, right? And for the audience, in the 1800s, people wanted, it, for whatever reason, tulips they start selling, and because they start selling, it created FOMO, fear of missing out, right? And then people were just like going bananas, trying to just buy tulips, and this was in Europe, and it was kind of the first recorded type of a bubble that it just went mainstream.
Yeah.
So, and that's the reason why sometimes they compare it to Bitcoin because kind of in a mainstream. Um, but the interesting thing is how these bubbles develop, because if it truly what it will make it not be a bubble is the times of people is trying to sell. If you keep it for a long time, that price action might not just skyrocket and come down, right? It will actually smooth it out. But you know what? There's always people that they just are trying to trade and speculate, and that's what it makes it the volatility to be that high.
Yeah, that's right. So, like over time, we've seen Bitcoin, it's always going up. I mean, eventually it's going to level out. Right now, it's still very early in its cycle. It's that's the trajectory, right? But like Mando said, yeah, there's ups and downs with that volatility. Uh, but people are sometimes are just kind of very nearsighted. A lot of people, when they talk about it, they don't really tell you whether they're taking like a microeconomic view or a macroeconomic view, or short-term view or a long-term view. So when people are saying Bitcoin's crashing, they might mean like over a small scale, like over the scale of like a few days. Yeah, it came down $10,000 in a couple of days. If you're day trading, yeah, that's a big crash. If you're hodling, that's like a blip, right? It's two different things, and it's all relative, just depending on your viewpoint and the scale of time that you're talking about.
We hit the all-time high, about 73.8 in March 14. Dude, that's a nice milestone, right? So the previous one was 69, so close to 69, right?
I call it 69 420 just because it's fun.
Sure. Uh, I think that, and again, this is not financial advice, right? So we are just two dudes in the internet, but we really think that it's an accumulation phase. If you notice, nothing goes up like a rocket, right? Forever. It has to do these waves, and as long as it continues to have higher highs, right? You're still in a bull run. And for those that are not familiar with the stocks, you have these two animals. One is the bull, and another one is the bear. The bulls are the ones that are pushing the price, and there is actually a bull statue in New York, in Wall Street, um, that kind of represents that. And then you have the bears, which kind of represents people that no, 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 the price is not going to be that high. I'm going to sell Bitcoin. I'm going to short it. And I think that right now the bears are losing money.
Well, maybe not in the last few days. So for
In the
those of
past
y'all
few
that
days.
aren't following it super closely, so we did go through our last all-time high, right around 69K, and we pushed it up to close to 74K as being the new all-time high. And I will just mention, when people are saying, oh, we hit the all-time high, it's time for it to go down to the bear market, that's not really how it works. We're going to be hitting uh price discovery or new prices that we've never hit before. And we're going to get new all time high over new all time high over new all time high, likely over the next year and a half before this cycle ends. Um, we do know this cycle is maybe a little bit different because it hasn't really lined up exactly like previous cycles. So there's always some risk there. Like we're not quite sure. Most people say it's going to be different, but to the upside, it's going to go higher. just because there's a big confluence of different factors that are pushing it higher, like the fact that there's ETFs now and things like that. So
Very
um,
easy. Right now, it's very easy for anyone to. If you have a brokerage account, you can get Bitcoin. You don't need to learn about wallets and about anything. Now, with basically any major company, Fidelity, BlackRock, right? They have their own ETFs. So very, very easy for normal person to even Robinhood, right? Should be
yeah.
listed there as well.
Yeah, plenty of ETFs out there. So if you've got a Charles Schwab or another account set up, whatever, you can go out there, look for them. There's GBTC, maybe not, because they've got really high fees, and that's where we're seeing a lot of outflows. Everyone's leaving GBTC or Grayscale ETF to go into some of the other ones that are free. Van Eck, which is HODL, HODL, that's one that has zero fees, at least for the time being. I think ARC also has ARC B is one that also has low fees or maybe free fees right now. There's a lot of them. Just go out and look them up. But those are some that you can get into very easily. It really takes a few minutes, especially if you already have your brokerage account set up.
Yep. You know, also something interesting about what has been happening with Bitcoin. Ex-President Trump, he was very opposed. He called it even a scam. So, and now he's actually changing his mind. He's like, well, you know, I'm not gonna crack down on Bitcoin. So it's just very funny to me how all of these people that they were completely against it, and now they are changing the tonality and their tone of their statements.
For sure. Well, it's an election year, so people are trying to minimize their enemies and maximize their allies, right? So, a lot of times, people that are into crypto and Bitcoin, they're kind of single issue voters. So, they just want to know that their crypto or their Bitcoin investment is going to be safe and they're just going to vote that way. So, knowing that, there's a lot of politicians out there that are saying, hey, I'm pro Bitcoin, or at least not anti Bitcoin. So, I think that a lot of people are going to start jumping on that bandwagon, and I think you're going to see that a lot of people are going to be very open to it, especially since a lot of the crypto or Bitcoin proponents likely they will have a lot of money already or in the near future, right? So they don't want to alienate that group of people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll keep watching what is going on with Bitcoin. Let's move to the next topic, our favorite topic, AI.
AI, yeah, really interesting stuff this week. So I know it just this interview just happened, but Sam Altman and Lex Friedman got together again just to talk about what's the latest that was going on. Right, I think after this whole big melee with Sam Altman getting fired and then getting hired back and all of this stuff right now, they found some time to kind of talk about what the latest that's going on, especially with like ChatGPT 5. Have you seen any of these interviews yet?
Not the next last one, but I do like sometimes how Lex Freeman interviews. You have this type of people, right? You have Lex, you have Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss. They are pretty good interviews, right? They ask a lot of questions of what people kind of is kind of waiting or wanted to know. The last one that I saw from him, it was the one for Jeff Bezos.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty good. I recommend people to watch that one. But yeah, I haven't seen the latest one for with Sam Altman.
Yeah. So these are just coming out. So basically, Lex asked kind of what's the things that we want to hear. So when he asked about ChatGPT 5, I think everybody's been hearing different things about it, like how good is it going to be? Is it going to be AGI? Is it going to replace everybody's jobs? So Sam Altman, of course, is very PC about a lot of this, so he doesn't want to cause any people to freak out or anything like that. But he did say ChatGPT 5 is likely coming out, maybe mid-year this year, and that it should be the the similar jump that we saw from ChatGPT 3 to ChatGPT 4, we should see from 4 to 5. So it should be a pretty good jump. I mean, I don't think anybody's really using ChatGPT 3 anymore. 4 is a lot better, even though it's a little lazy right now. I think a lot of people are saying. So hopefully GPT 5 is not lazy, and he's really a good worker and he kind of just does what we tell him to do. But
Yeah,
we'll see
when
how that
you're asking
works.
it to give you some code, it's like it gets you the scaffolding, like some lines like, ah, yeah, by the way, you can add here some code. Like, bro, just give me the code. I don't know actually that.
Yeah, you've got to phrase it just right. That's the thing. Like, there, for whatever reason, ChatGPT 4 really just, it's not. He's trying to take a break. We released a video not too long ago talking about how it's quiet quitting.
It's quite quitting. you have to speak nice to ChatGPT, like, please.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, no 8 a.m. meetings. It's fine. Come in at 9. You're good.
Yeah, yeah. Like, what's your take on? Do you think that coders are still needed?
I think eventually, yeah. No, I don't think they're going to be needed. I think that's definitely where we're going. But our buddy Juan, Juan from NVIDIA, that Juan guy.
Uh, I know a whole bunch of Juans, but I think that guy is Jensen Huang,
Oh yeah, Juan. I just call him Juan. That Juan guy.
the
Uh,
Huang guy, which is the CEO for NVIDIA.
yeah.
Yeah, you know that dude. Every person is trying to get their style, and he always has like a motorcycle biker
Hey man, it's pretty cool, man.
jacket. No, he's not that cool, man.
I'm gonna bust out my motorcycle jacket. You'll see it.
Anyways, but he always shows up with a jacket, a bike, like a biker's jacket. But
Uh-huh.
anyways, yeah, that guy also is thinking that maybe coders are not needed anymore, and I think that is because they are bringing up their new processors for meant to be AI.
Hmm.
So uh, I think that when Sam Altman gets interviewed, he's saying, well. You still need some coders, but it's going to be completely different of what they're saying that is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, he did touch on that in the interview. So if you think about it, we've got all these when we're coding today, you still have all these libraries, or you use different APIs to get the information that you need, or whatever within your code. He says, kind of in a similar fashion, that's how we're going to be using GPT-5. So we won't necessarily need to code everything from scratch. Maybe you tell ChatGPT to create a library for you on the fly or something, and it'll be able to do that. So you don't necessarily need to code every piece, but maybe
Mhm.
for at least a little bit, you're the one that's kind of putting everything together, just high level architecture. But the actual like line by line code of the different pieces, you won't have to be putting that together. It'll be either ChatGPT or some other libraries already created.
The other thing that it came out from ChatGPT, or in this case, OpenAI, they are also working in robotics. So
Mhm.
they are actually having their own like robot. We mentioned it on the pod that that's kind of the transition that you now that the AI is becoming pretty good, then you can start putting this into machines. Then they can start having sensors and they can start having vision. So you can start putting all of this together. And finally, I'm gonna be able to tell Alexa, clean my dishes.
Exactly. It's the marriage of bits and atoms, as we
Yes.
like to call it, right? I think that's awesome. I know I have told the story maybe before when we were kind of doing some brainstorming activities of what kind of business I'm going to do. I was like, man, when I'm like sitting in the theater or something watching a movie, I don't want to have to get up and grab a drink. I want something to come bring it to me. I'm going to have Alexa do it for me, right? I'm going to get my little robot. Maybe it's a little dog, or maybe it's like a person humanoid type thing. I don't know, but you know, things like that. I think is going to be very interesting here in the near term. And I know they're already embedding the AI into robot brains essentially. So that's already what they're doing, right? They're trying to get that going, and there's more than just one company doing it. There's
When you
several
get your
people doing it.
Neuralink implanted, you don't even have to say it. You'll think about. want
You
a
just
beer.
think it. By the way, did you see Neuralink? This guy came out that they have a quadriplegic that they actually implanted it, and he only has, I think, use below his shoulder or above his shoulders, not anything below. Now he's able to play video games and stuff like that using his implant. It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah, that just happened this week. But I do want to mention one quick thing here. I know I had dinner with some friends earlier this week. Shout out to Raul and Rita. Rita's actually working on I think a Harvard X class online where they're it's an AI encoding class. So she's going through this right now. But you know what she said? They said, no, you can't use ChatGPT for any of this. It's like, that sounds a little backwards, doesn't it? Especially with like where these leaders today are saying like, hey, yeah, we're not going to really need coders in the future. It's going to be able to take over. I don't know. I think they're maybe missing a little bit of an opportunity here.
I always tell my daughters, don't let the school stop your education.
I really like that. You should put that on a t-shirt.
It's like in this case, right? Tell Rita,
Yeah.
don't let Harvard stop your education.
Exactly. It's kind of silly, but I can kind of maybe see where they're getting from. They want you to learn the concepts before you like get too advanced and just jump straight to Chat GPT.
So, I mean,
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
yeah,
there.
but if you think about it, even if you're copying the code, something is gonna stick, right? Like you're gonna see, okay, maybe I saw the pattern how the machine coded it, and I get it. Maybe they are saying don't copy and paste, right? Literally without even understanding. But dude, if ChatGPT is giving the answer, and you can ask in the prompt, describe me, explain me step by step in almost every single line what the heck is doing. It's like you're gonna absorb the knowledge, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically a tutor, and that's kind of what I mentioned to Rita. Is like, hey, yeah, okay, I get it. You don't want to take the whole answer from ChatGPT. Ask it to be your tutor. Just explain to it what you want it to do, and it can do that. Explain things line by line. So hopefully that's what she did. She was working on an assignment, and I said,
Sometimes
keep your head up. It's good. It's gonna be all right.
sometimes what schools or even people forget it, they're humans too. They have biases. They're wrong, right? And sometimes they don't have the full research or whatever, right? So uh and again with my daughters, sometimes like when they're telling me what they're learning, they're like, no, that didn't happen. So then I teach them how to Google it, right? So and they can see that sometimes their teachers are wrong. It's like, and don't get me wrong, teachers are like amazing, right? For the things that they do and putting up with the kids, and
Yeah.
they work a lot. They truly work a lot, but sometimes they're wrong, and I think that it's hard to as a student. Doesn't matter if you are in master or PhDs or whatever, or even in middle school like mine. Uh, it's hard to figure out when they are right and when they are wrong, right? So, but yeah, in this case, I think that even coming from Harvard, I think that they're wrong.
That's true. I mean, when I was working on my PhD, I called out professors for something that I thought was wrong. They did not appreciate that at all. They put me in my place, believe me. So, yeah, be careful how you respond to them.
Yeah, because but also remember though, um, there is this guy that his name is Naval. Awesome content. The guy is like a philosopher, on like kind of new philosopher, and he says one of those things that for academics, it's a different game. They are looking from prestige and kind of like their name, but that's about it.
Yeah,
And in his case, he's thinking, well, like you have you're looking for that, good for you, right? I mean, but that's not truly the game that you want to play, and I think that that's maybe the case, right? So I guess you just need to watch out for those type of games.
exactly. That's really what it is. But that's why we got Tex-Mex podcast now. So.
Tech-Mex boxes.
Tex-Mex podcast. All right.
Cool.
Well, next thing. So another interesting thing that Altman talked about, of course, was this Q star. So if you guys remember, we had a theory here on the Tex-Mex podcast that QStar was one of the reasons that Sam Altman got fired or ousted, right? Early on, late last year, right? It's because, QStar's AGI. QStar is able to do certain things. QStar is able to break encryption. Like there were all these rumors that were floating around. And I think we found out that maybe there was some truth to some of that. And I think Sam Altman has never said that QStar does not exist. In fact, Lex Friedman asked him about it, and basically Sam Altman said, "I'm not talking about that right now." So he did not deny it, right? I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things that you can infer from some of this.
I think that is going to be, we're going to know based on the court case from Elon. I think that guy is going to be able to pull it off to actually, and I'm debating myself. I think that is just a funny tactic from Elon, but I can see why he's trying to do it too. Independently that he might be a sore loser, right? So I think that maybe there is something there that we need to regulate because remember a lot of these people, techies. I'm a techie, but sometimes there are not as many Hispanics how I would like it, right? They have biases,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously these programmers they put biases on these systems and these programs. So, in my opinion, this type of technology might have to be a little bit open source so everybody can see what happened, right? And that's in theory, that was the name, right?
Yeah.
Open AI, but guess what? Right now it's close AI.
Very true. Which is, yeah, right. Elon's whole point of this lawsuit. He's like, "Hey, I put in all this money. I thought it was going to be open. They ended up letting Microsoft kind of be the big guy in the room, and then they closed it. And now Elon's out, but they kept all that money or investment. So he wants to open it up. I can see, of course, now he has Grok also that he's trying to get out there that's trying to compete and things like that. So maybe he slows them down a little bit, or maybe if he discovers info that can help Grok, maybe, that's just a happy coincidence.
This is just accelerating very fast. You have
Yeah.
NVIDIA doing finally kind of this chip manufacturing, right? And then you have these companies, Grok and OpenAI, to keep pushing. So, and then you have all of the robotics going. It's going to be exciting for the next 5 to 10 years in technology.
I think we're gonna see a lot of big strides. And so Lex actually asked Sam Altman about AGI. Like, obviously that's another big thing that we're interested in, whether it's Q Star or not Q Star, if it's going to be part of something else.
Could you describe
So
for the audience what's AGI?
AGI is basically just the general intelligence of AI. Basically, it can do anything, right? It can be useful for anything. You could drop it into the robot, and you can talk to it naturally, and it's just able to do it. So that's what.
That's where the Asimov, the author for the iRobot, rules might be very important, right?
They do become more important there. So
Which the rules basically say that don't harm a human, basically. And the kind of the second rule is the same, like look at rule number two. And kind of the other one is it's kind of obey what the human, unless you're breaking rule number
one
one,
of the
rule
other
number
rules.
two.
Yeah, we did do. If you guys are interested, we did do a clip on the Asimov rules also. So look it up in our show history. But so when Sam Altman was asked about AGI, or this general intelligence, he said that he would opt to use different words for it. I'm like, it sounds like he's sidestepping the question a little bit, but he's saying it's like he would describe it as when AI all on its own can kind of push science forward or have scientific discoveries on its own without us having to help it or guide it or things like that, right? And when I hear that, that sounds awfully similar to another concept that we've mentioned before, which is the singularity, which is like that's the point when, yeah, your AI becomes sentient. It can basically think just like a person does or a human does, but it just has so many more resources at its fingertips. It has all of the knowledge, all of the memory. It can have really good compute, high compute. It can automate everything. So like that's the singularity point. So what he's talking about, Sam Altman, to me sounds like, hey, maybe that's what he's saying. It's like um, that's what AGI really is, and that's going to kickstart the singularity process.
Also, I think that based on this, Sam also is investing in companies that they can do compute, because I think that that will be the next currency. Yeah, Bitcoin is gonna be the transaction, right, to be able to store value, but a lot of it is gonna be kind of your new oil.
Mm-hmm.
It will be compute. So and it's not in the way that we know it right now with like AWS, that you just kind of have your servers there in the cloud. No, it's about more how you're able to efficiently be able to process information, right? Like, hey, I need to be able, like example, let's say that you have your robot, and maybe the hardware might not be able to process a lot of the information. Then if you want your robot to do a specific task, then you might have to pay for that compute power, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your machine cannot do it in your house, you might have to send it through to the cloud and all of that. So, but yeah, I think that the next currency is going to be compute.
Yeah, definitely. And we can see that, like, even if I'm trying to do some AI or machine learning here at home, like, I'm limited by my computer power. I can't do lots of things because my computer's not able to handle it. You need these big a cluster or whatever the case is, right? So that's why Sam Altman, and we mentioned this previously, he's asking for $7 trillion to get more hardware, because I think maybe in many cases right now they're limited by the hardware that they have. They could potentially do so much
GPUs, yeah,
more. They could potentially do so much more if they had more hardware or better hardware. And so that's part of, I think, what he's piecing together. It's like, we don't want to be hardware limited anymore. We don't want to be limited by compute. We want to have as much of it as we can. And then we can really maybe get the real Q star, really maybe get AGI going, really maybe kick off the singularity. Maybe that's the direction that he's trying to go.
for sure. All right, so let's move to the next section, though. You know who's going to be the next trillionaire?
Trillionaire.
Trillionaire. You know what is cool? It's $1 trillion.
How many commas is that? That's not the 3 comma club. That's the four
No, it's
comma
like
club.
4 comma club, man. Our buddy
Oh gosh.
Michael Saylor, the future trillionaire.
Yeah. Michael Saylor.
I was looking for the pod. He's a 59-year-old, so he's almost 60. His net worth is about a little bit shy of 5 billions.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I do really want to recognize this guy. He has been a spokesperson for pro Bitcoin, and ups and downs, man. And he has been standing up in his own feet, right? Which is not easy. I mean, sometimes I read the haters that we have for our channel, and man, it's hard, right? It's hard to not to kind of not get it. But this guy, imagine how many people uh, trying to poke in his ideas and all of that. So I think that he deserves some love and some shout outs too, because he's a public persona and he's always out there, right?
Yeah. So Michael Saylor, and he admits, like, when he first heard about Bitcoin, and you can see his early tweets, he was like, nah, man, why? This is tulips all over again, right? Or beanie babies. But he came around. So he's known for his first principles approach, right? And he started doing kind of the analysis that said, you know, if my company, MicroStrategy, hopes to make it through maybe the upcoming recessions or whatever, this all the inflation that's going on, I can't hold my extra cash and money. But he started looking at, okay, what are some assets that he can buy to maybe keep more of his money, basically, and not lose it through inflation. And he came up with, well, maybe Bitcoin really is the answer. He found out that Bitcoin is the hardest fucking money ever invented in the world. So he's like, that's where I'm going. And so, you know, ever since then, he's been using his company MicroStrategy to accumulate as much Bitcoin as he can because it's the biggest hedge against inflation. And if he ever needs the money, they can always take fiat out, but Bitcoin is going to be able to hold its value even more than like real estate, gold, or other commodities.
He he is very public. He's always people are interviewing him. Very articulated, very sharp. This guy is, I believe, from MIT. He's studying MIT as well, right? So
Mhm.
he was the CEO. Right now, he's not the CEO, but he still owns a good amount of shares in MicroStrategy. But the guy is a poet. I mean, he has some quotes like
He's pretty good on it. Yeah.
he
He
has this
flows.
one. It's funny. This one is funny. Satoshi started a fire in cyberspace. While the fearful run from it, the fools are dancing around it, and the faithful feed the flame in a dream of a world bathed by the glove on cyberlight.
He's a visionary, but he also has a nice imagination there. Yeah, it's pretty it's pretty interesting how he puts it very eloquently. And you know he has to, right? Because being this public persona, right, he's always on being interviewed and on these talk shows, and he just wants to make sure that this message gets across to all different types of people. He always said Bitcoin is digital gold, and that's kind
Mhm.
of the easiest way to grasp um, for people that understand what gold is to the current economy, what Bitcoin then is compared to gold, right? Bitcoin is digital gold. And that's a good way for people to kind of make that relation, right? It's growing harder. And when we say it's harder, it means you can't inflate it, right? You can't make more of it. So it's a hard asset. It's smarter, faster, stronger, and it's just due to the relentless progression of technology. So it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, and it's like he also makes a resemble of if you have an apartment in Manhattan, right? Are you gonna try to sell it? No, you keep it, right? Because it's a piece of property that you always want to have, right? So, and he was one of the ones that made me start thinking on refinancing. Because if you think about it, if you have that apartment in Manhattan, yes, you can sell it, you can rent it, but the best opportunity there is to refinance it so that way you can get some money and then you can start growing and you still keep the asset.
Yep.
So a lot of these first principles that he thinks and he teaches very, very publicly. Um, it's just interesting to me that a lot of people they don't see or hear these things, right? Because he puts a lot of knowledge out there from the billionaire status.
Yeah. I think not only is he kind of one of the great technical minds, right, of today's time, but also quite a philosopher, I think. He really thinks really deeply about this and what it really means. He recently did an interview that actually one of our fellow YouTubers and Bitcoin maxis, it seems, put out a song where he says he took this clip that says, people that use fiat currency as a store of value are poor.
And the funny part is that they made a remix with
So
all
this
of
is a
that.
remix. Yeah, it's too funny. But the things that he says, some of the things that he says, obviously, it's meant to be attention grabbing, right?
Mm.
So that's just one way. It's like, how can someone so well known, respected, make such kind of a blunt sentence and say it, right? Like people that use fiat currency as a store of value are poor. But it's meant to provoke some thought from you, like, okay, what does he really mean? How does Bitcoin solve this problem? And he wants you to go do your research and go down the rabbit hole.
Um, and I think that is, as you said, they're provoking statements, but there is a lot of truth to them. Check Venezuela or Argentina, right? Like their currencies, they lost 90% of their value. Just imagine that. Imagine like literally you have your dollars, right? Your fiat money. and suddenly the value is like 90% lost compared to, in this case, Bitcoin, that is almost being kind of doubling every year, right? But ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
But the whole cycle, it just continues to keep growing. That's
Well,
the
and I
reason
will.
why. Go ahead.
I was going to say I will mention. You mentioned 90% loss. I think the U.S. dollar has lost 90% since its inception, or at least over the last 100 years or so. So I mean, U.S. dollars already there too. Remember, you could buy a Coca-Cola, your favorite, for a nickel. How much does it cost now? You know?
Yeah, and people don't see that inflation because it has been 2-3% for many many years, very very stable. But now people start seeing it when you go to the grocery store, right? It's like it's not the same, right? With the Mexican price index,
The MPI.
we coin it here the term. Uh, and yeah, I think that is it's that's where you can start thinking. And again, Michael Saylor has been advocate of people get 0.2 per two bitcoins, right, if you can, right, and you will be kind of okay. And there's a whole formula why, right, and we have a video about that where you can search a bunch of videos that's kind of the amount that they are telling people to have. So but yeah, once again, take a look at his content, watch some of his interviews. Sometimes he is entertaining too.
Yeah, Michael Saylor is always a good listen. I know there's plenty of YouTube videos out there of Michael Saylor just talking for hours that people put together. It's too funny. Oh gosh. Well, you know what? I think that's all we've got for today. I want you guys to like, subscribe, and comment. We'd love to hear from y'all. If you like the content, share with your friends. Make sure we get known and we start to get a little bit bigger. So we want to make sure that you guys have a good time. Mondo, anything else?
No, peace out.
Peace out. See y'all
Peace.
next time. Dale.